Good evening, everybody. System Chalk here with the 33rd episode of Cultist Simulator, the Bright Young Thing Legacy, playing as David Ellison. Before we begin today's session, I just wanted to take a quick minute and say, at least for those of you who are playing on Steam, you may have noticed that there is an update. It was posted on Tuesday, December the 13th, so almost a week ago by the time that this video goes live. But it's the final update from Weather Factory in terms of patches for this year, and I'm going to leave the details for everyone sort of to check out on their own, but it is actually an update that I would encourage you to check out. Actually, sorry, my apologies, the major update was December 6th, and it was the Gearby update, so I'm quite late in terms of reading this, but one thing I just wanted to draw your attention to is it gives a very nice summary of all the things that Weather Factory have been up to, including the patches. And what I didn't realize was that over the course of the year there have been 40 patches to the game, and it looks like Cultist Simulator will be reaching potentially 1 million copies purchased on Steam sometime next year, the 5th anniversary. Keep in mind, of course, a lot of this will be discounts where yours truly is babbling on, keeping people from buying the game until I go offline. Some of you may have actually found the series through that. But the other thing that I wanted to mention is that it does also remind us that Book of Hours will be coming out in June of next year. And then on top of Cultist Simulator, there is now the 6th History Community License, which basically means if you want to charge money for a Secret Histories related thing, you can within a certain amount of revenue. The Secret Historian boxes through their shop. There is actually a bronze statue of I think it's bronze, of the Vagabond, which there's a wonderful video that they've put out. There's a Locksmith's Dream, which at the time of this recording is, I believe, running its last event of the year. However, if you are interested in attending, you can basically buy tickets in advance. And one of the things that's nice about that is I believe you get basically a £100 discount off of the whatever room that you do. So essentially, by helping them sort of manage their inventories, i.e. how many times to rent, I think you're getting a discount off of it. But you can check out the website for those details. There's the Mysterious Package Company version of The Lady Afterwards and the release of The Snare of the Tree and Other Perilous Seductions. I actually read that on the plane to a trip, maybe something Cultist Simulator related actually, that I went on. I really enjoyed reading that. But the reason why I'm taking the time to talk about this update is that at the bottom, there's the note that says, we also released a series of free in-universe letters and documents that you really shouldn't miss if the lore has its hooks in you. About the arts of light and war, about the horrible secrets of expansion, about bothering rabbits, about the long peace by the seas. So the reason why I wanted to highlight that is that every once in a while we'll talk about lore. There's a side of me that thinks I should maybe take some time to read some of these entries and maybe a separate video sometime, but especially because some of you are interested in the lore but you may not have read those letters, those patch notes are probably the best way to get to them. But like I said, I'm going to leave the substance of the notes to people who are interested in checking them out. If you don't have the game on Steam, I'm sure you can probably find the patch notes on the Weather Factory website, but I'll put it to you this way: if you're having trouble finding them, just leave a comment and I'll put down a link, because you should still be able to see them even if you're not an owner of the game. So, where are we? We are probably going to wind up with some evidence against us, although we've gotten lucky the last few times. Writing an extensive treatise on the lore of Lantern. Now, are we... Right, I think I needed to summon a percussagant again. So what I'll probably do is I'll do a passion painting. Although I may get hit by the Season of Visions. So we do a passion painting. To try and get the staleness down. Following that, we try to summon a percussagant. We won't need to worry. We just need Moth for the rest of this, so we'll be fine. I also need to give it some more money. We are currently researching Moth, and I've left the dream slot open, so I may want to think a little bit about what I do with that. Okay, actually, let's take the time to think about that now. So I was originally going through the spider's door, but I keep eating my prisoners. So I guess we're gonna get some new ones. The trouble I'm running into right now is it's tough for me to decide whether or not I want to go through. I think I'm just going to leave this be for the time being. And the reason for this is I have the Season of Visions coming up, so I don't really want to risk the fascination coming up, and I've already got the knock from the last trip that I took. So let's just move ahead. All right, what's coming up? Another Season of Ambitions. Right, I've finished the manuscript. So at some point I'll talk with Madame Bichet to get another commission, but for now, let's take care of my restlessness. The dread might actually be helpful in terms of getting rid of the restlessness, but the dread might be useful in terms of getting rid of any fascination that I may generate, but I don't really like relying on something like that. So in this case here, we'll just eliminate the restlessness. If I do wind up with a fascination, normally I would have been able to take advantage of the fleeting reminiscence. In practice, I'm probably just going to have to wait for either another fleeting reminiscence or something, another dread, which of course we've got the Season of Ambitions coming up. So, actually, I'm probably not going to be frustrated by that. I'm probably just going to have a prisoner that I wind up picking up. Also, I'm going to do a quick audit. Sorry to pause again. I have a feeling that someone got wounded and I didn't heal them. And I think I'm just fighting the last battle because I know... Yeah. I know I made that mistake last session. Looks like we're fine, though. Okay, what do we need here? I might find... this is a puzzle with missing pieces. I might find those pieces in odd corners of scholarship. In this case, we need to provide a glimmering, which we can do. Logistical difficulties. Supplies are low. Unless I send more funds, we will have to abandon the expedition. And the colors of the night, I could spend money on better paints, or perhaps I could find more exotic pigments. We won't spend because we're trying to get rid of the staleness. And let's see what happens with the evidence. If a hunter has found notoriety, they will use it to create or upgrade evidence. If they're meticulous, they'll always succeed. If they're erratic, they're more likely to fail. Amongst a potent deception, we have brought here with us certain sacred texts whose meaning is apparent only in moonlight. Alright, my minion has returned, attended by a prisoner rendered docile with delight. So, just in time for us. More notoriety, but that'll help with the painting. And we managed to outdo the Season of Vision. So, mirrors are calm, the sun is steady, the glory recedes. I'm saying if that means anything. No fascination tries your visions, it's over for now. And Season of Despair coming up, so I don't need to worry about the restlessness, but I do need to worry about anything that may generate dread. So we'll start by having a quick chat with Madame Bichet. She's seeking pieces for the notorious Kerisham Review, and then we will send Saliba out again. Alright, my recent work has attracted a couple of callers. With luck, something will sell. So wasn't really doing it for the money, but it's nice to get a little something for our efforts. And we got, speaking of getting things for our efforts, we did wind up with some fascination, so I think I'm going to annihilate that with the fleeting reminiscence right now. The doors of vision swing wide, a little darkness will mellow my light, even dread has its uses. So we're still going to be waiting for the, the passion so that we can get rid of that last staleness. But now is the time to grab a percussicant. So we'll use the Sunset Rite, the Subtle Fracture. We will use the Formula Vigilant as the invocation, and then finally we'll bring Victor in as the assistant. The percussicant, merciless and merry, heart will bring it, edge will constrain it. I'm certain that my adversary has lodged a copy of their notes elsewhere, with their solicitor, with their superior, or even with a contact in the press. This is troubling. And Madame Bichet would like a forge work. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is send Saliba. So I would like to destroy the evidence, and I do have some moth followers to work on it. But what I want to do first is get a couple of kind of pocket prisoners. So a sufficiently persuasive disciple can probably lure a susceptible companion back to us. Faith is a double-edged weapon. These monks have a great talent in the matter of believing, and so they have believed our lies. And we need a rarefied mind. I could use the fascination, but I don't want to. Well, I can't now because it's being dreamed away, but theoretically I could have used the fascination. Another mark. I have drunk the light of their mind. It thrills and fills me. The marks brighten in me. So I think we've already read this, but the sixth mark is said to occur when the flesh between the finger and thumb can be pulled to the final finger joint. My skin is very loose now. I think my bones are beginning to soften. My eyes are not a human color. So if we don't want to lose the marks, essentially we're going to have to feed every season of ambitions with a new prisoner. I'm not forced to, but again, it's one of these things where I do certain things consistent with my, what I think I would do. All right, treasures lie before us. A bit rockier than I wanted it to be, but we're okay. And a rebellious spirit, so I think we're going to I'm going to try reasserting control this time with passion. And season of sickness coming up, so I think it's a tough call if I want to try and double things up with the vitality or if I just try and get heart elsewhere. I think I'm just going to try and get the heart elsewhere. Although maybe what I can do is take a heart follower. Let Dorothy see if that helps things. And I think I'll go through the wood. Where did my other passion go? Right, a breach. My summoning has escaped my control, where it will wreak havoc, no doubt. Alright, so here it's grabbed the avid disciple. The victim will know that something is amiss by now. They will listen to the sounds in the night and try to make their preparations. So I wonder, the real question here is, can I get away with another attempt with a subtle flaw? Amazingly, we can. The percussicant, merciless and merry, heart will bring it, edge will constrain it. My minion is returned, attended by a prisoner rendered docile with delight. So there's another prisoner. I'm going to send it one more time. I'm going to get Saliba to go out one more time before we try and get rid of the evidence. I've increased my mastery of the lore of the wood, which we call by its aspect moth. So here we've got the Centipede Testament. Now that's not quite an upgrade for us yet, but we have what we need to be able to take it to the next level if we need. What we do want to focus on, though, is translating and reading the books that we can. So we have the Watchful Tantra first, notorious for its involvement in the deaths of Dyfed Jones and Meredith Blaine, two early physicists who each claimed to have the only copy and who ultimately fought a duel over it in 1840. So here we will translate. Lock the study door, the work begins. Beneath the... Oh, let's try that again. The monks and their miseries lie behind us. Here, in their chapel courtyard, a great yew rises behind a granite altar, lidded like a sarcophagus. What's within? The space inside the altar is filled with broken cups, everyone painted red, everyone scrawled with vile graffiti and otherwise befouled. The monks must have held great ceremonies of detestation and kept the remains as trophies. Buried among the cup corpses are other treasures. So we have the Tantra of Worms, the entomologist... we'll read the details when when we're ready to translate. I'm always bad at dividing it that way. Okay, we've got Rose Pearl Dust. I can't recall. Yes, we've already done the heart painting. We've got Deoris Book 2 in Latin. Thirsting Tantra. Against the sisterhood of the knot and the foulness of their depraved customs. Yet another copy of the Magus von Brandt's authentic and unique account of the true tongue of the true holy land of the Highmost. I will actually briefly say this is related to another game, but some of you may be fans of the 4X genre. And I tend to play Old World on the streamer-friendly mode, which has, essentially it's the one that gets rid of the copyrighted music. And it's a shame because they've really chosen some truly beautiful songs for the soundtrack. Some of them are from Seraphim Bit, Caribe. So the album that this is from is Chanting in the Language of Christ, and what it is are a number of chants in Aramaic. In particular, for the main menu music, they use the second track of this album, Psalm 50, and it's great stuff. So, but in this particular case here, just happened to be I happened to be listening to some Aramaic before broadcasting, and thought I would share that. And for those of you who have not yet played Old World, I recommend giving it a shot. I think it's time well spent. Okay, so one of the questions that I have for myself is, do I want to try and pursue another expedition while the Caligine and the Precussigant are potentially otherwise occupied? So we've got Foreman House. Philip Foreman, the helminthologist and antiquarian, did all his best work here at the family home until the day his subjects escape. The infestation was destroyed, but Foreman, they say, walks the halls to this day, guarding his library and his shame. So I think I am going to go, and in this case, I'm actually going to bring some followers. So because Foreman's walking the house, we're going to say ghosts are a problem. Unquestionably, this bleak mansion is haunted. The last visitor saw and fled the dead before they could touch him with their fraying hands. The visitor before that claimed she saw nothing, but she died of despair exactly 1 year later to the day. So I'm going to guess that there's a curse we need to worry about as well. So here, obviously, I'm changing things from how I normally play. Normally, I wouldn't risk followers. I also don't normally try to resist summons. But in this case, I've decided to take a different approach. The first rays of the day's sun will fall on the open eyes of a corpse. There is often a price for an unwise summoning, but it is not always the summoner who pays it. So the good news, though, is that I've got the Trembling Airs, which will... that's a short timer on that now. The Trembling Airs are going to turn into vitality that will help me with my sickness. I meant to read that. I apologize. Our expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds. I can add funds now, or I could send another follower. So this is the Dry Soul Curse. We need Heart or Lantern to suppress this curse. Otherwise, it will not keep us from our goal, but it may trouble us later. So we'll add the Lantern followers right now. The velvet is strong in the well in the wood. The velvet is strong at the well in the wood, and the velvet is the hour that keeps secrets. But now and then she lets a little secret fall, like a crumb at a feast. Last night I found a moss-clad rock written all around with the secrets of another history. I might give thanks to the velvet, but it will be wiser not to draw her attention. So this gives us some potential for upgrades, but certainly I've got better things that I can be doing with the study verb. And then in this case, this is just a question of waiting. 34 seconds, and then the 42 for the Trembling Airs. Both of those will be earlier than a journey to the Mansis, so we'll just leave that be. Another resistance. Let's give this another shot. So this is going to turn into notoriety now. I prepared the text for study. I think I'm going to do the same thing I normally... Well, no, let's read it. The Tantra describes processes of occult illumination, including a formula which may show the way from the Hunter's Gate to the Serpent's Gate, which in the West is usually called the Spider's Door. The dead circle the edge of our vision like frayed dreams. The very air around us is chill with winter's shadow. They must recognize that. The illness has damaged my health. I will need to rest before I'm fully recovered. Cure your affliction with funds or vitality. So here we'll take the affliction, we'll combine that with the fleeting, or not the fleeting reminiscence, with the trembling airs, and I'm succeeding. Alright. Place behind desire. Is there something to be learnt from the satisfaction of desire? My venue has returned empty-handed. Oh, it's a shame. So Season of Ardor is coming up, so I don't need to worry too much about the... I don't need to worry too much about a replacement prisoner. So in this case, I was going to lose a Callagine soon. In this case, I'll get the evidence dealt with, but I also need to start making some money again. Summoning will obey my wishes now. So we'll add the percussagant where I can to the expedition. Actually, we can move Pope Clifton out for the time being. And let's get that painting done. Oh, I need to wait a few seconds. Okay. So just a reminder, this is about getting rid of the last of the staleness, so I can start using this notoriety to make some money. I didn't really think about how I was going to be... I didn't really think about what I was going to paint, though. Let's paint Leo. Something to remember them by, perhaps. This is something like enlightenment. I could spend money on better paints, or perhaps I could find more exotic pigments. Definitely don't have a need for that. The sun passes through the house at the appointed time. Since the sun's division, the time has become uncertain. So this is another Fenian invocation. This is good for us because we can move that up. Remembering, of course, that the high-level lantern lore is going to be the thing that doesn't just complete the game for us, but is also important because we still want to be able to turn the disciples into seers. So this would be a higher priority to level up, but I'm still going to focus on studying the works that I already have. And we also got the Rite of the Watchman's Sorrow. We probably won't wind up using it, but it's an option. Okay, let's move on to the Geminiad. A fragile manuscript, illuminated with the twin shapes of a sad and luminous beauty, and with all the phases of the moon. It might be as old as the 7th century, but the language we've seen is much older. Coral decorates the cover, and its page edges are sharp enough to slash a throat. Lock the study door, the work begins. Let's just add some lantern for our tangle with the curse. And Season of Vision's coming up, so I will be careful. The sick room grows close and stale. Time to get up. Alright, so if I wanted, I could use the hapless prisoner, but I think I want to keep a prisoner just in case I get peckish. I await word. My recent work has attracted a couple of callers. With luck, something will sell. Well, looks like I didn't have much luck. But we did get rid of the staleness. So, This, again, for the majority of this session, it sort of seems very mechanical in terms of how I've approached the run. But essentially, we've hit sort of a minor goal that had, I don't know if I'd ever explicitly stated it, but over the last little while, because we had that 2 staleness, that was something that was going to put my funds under threat. Now, it's worth remember, it says that there's 3 on the table right now, but a lot of that's locked up in either an expedition, and in 37 seconds I'm going to have to pay the rent. So I want to get this painting done right away because I've got a bunch of notoriety which I can use, and that's essentially going to be how I wind up funding the expeditions. But the tricky part here is that I wasn't going to do the profitable paintings, because the one thing that I learned was getting on that treadmill of, you know, doing the reputation-based paintings and then trying to wait out the passion to be able to work the staleness down. There's no way to win that. Essentially, you just wind up with sort of a depressed rate at which you earn funds. So my alternative had usually been to work on commissions and then sort of build up a savings. So in an emergency, I can use the Explorer verb, I can go to Oriflamme, sell some Spintra. And of course, we've got something of a library now that we can sell as well. And that was, in the background, that was one of the main things I was working on. Of course, there were a number of things to get in the way of that. We lost the Percussagant, so I needed to resummon one of those. I was going to try and convert the corpse into something, maybe a Voiceless Dead, although actually I don't think you need a corpse for a Voiceless Dead, now that I think of it. But in any case, I was going to try and do a summoning with the corpse as well, but the expiry on those are quite a bit shorter. But in any case, this is probably the best time that I could get for the staleness, because again, I want to take advantage of the notoriety, and we're at a point where I'm not going to be able to spend money on improving my paints soon. In fact, I suspect the rent's going to come due before I can spend that. But we'll try our best. So you never know, this might be a living. And again, doesn't really matter so much what the inspiration is. Let's do another... I think we'll do another heart painting, so this time we'll paint Clovette. A portrait, something to remember them by, perhaps. We call upon the Colonel, who cannot be denied. The Colonel is a fierce hour, but a power which knows light, and he has survived worse. His power will almost certainly protect us. So that is 15 lantern that... Wait a minute. 15? Oh, because Cat Caro is a seer. Alright, my minion has returned. The evidence has been destroyed. I am a little safer. So we'll add the Callagine right now. And we will send Saliba out to try and get another prisoner. A sufficiently persuasive disciple can probably lure a susceptible companion back to us. My own heart pumps more strongly today. Okay, pay for the paints. We've got 14 seconds, so yes, we will have to pay the rent, and those funds are not going to be available to me. Prepared the text for study. Geminiad. These pages outline the nature and doctrines of an hour that demands the union of what is at rest, an hour that is sought at the water's edge beneath the moon, the witch and sister. The language is naughty, poetic, willful. It will take some untangling. I note here, again, I talked about the Geminiad being one of the earlier books as well. I think it might have actually been one of the first translatable books. But notice here, even though this is maybe a book that we get later in the game now, it actually still has the square bracket comment around it. I have made notes towards a translation. Now I can study it. So, you know, it's interesting to see some of the fingerprints of how the game had been set up. Kind of in earlier stages. I don't necessarily think, like, sometimes pointing these things out can kind of seem like you like pointing out mistakes or anything like that. I don't particularly see this as a mistake, but it is just sort of neat to be able to see a few of the ways that the game used to work. When I first played this, I may have been mistaken. I'm pretty sure, though, that the game was quite clear that it was not possible to translate the work, and that essentially there was a language and there was no... So the book was written in a language for which you could not be a scholar of that language. But it was kind of neat to see that. And of course, I wouldn't have seen the square brackets weren't a concept that were in the game. That came, I think, after the prodding of both Lottie and the publisher at the time. That came quite late in the game's development. But more importantly, because there wasn't the language to translate, there wouldn't have been the indication that I translated it. I'm pretty sure there's a video of me playing the early version of Cultist Simulator now that I think of it, but we'll save that for another time. Okay, Season of Visions and a Season of Ambition, so just as well that we didn't use up the prisoner. Worthless. I produce nothing of any use or significance at all. I should be ashamed of myself. But it still accrued modest fame. Only 1 funds, though. And 3 staleness for the trouble. That's a really big problem. So this is probably the point where I'm going to have to start selling some of my goodies. Or I'm going to have to sort of like burgle a house or something. But I think in this case, we are going to... Yeah, we're going to have to use the explore verb for things other than expeditions. But all of that will be handled in another episode. As always, thank you very much for watching. Just as a reminder that Tuesdays are an off day, so there will be no episode for that. There will probably be one of the live videos of a different game. Normally those go online in the mornings. But I will be back Wednesday to resolve my money troubles, as well as try and get a little bit closer to some kind of an ending, because we have lots of options available to us. But until then, thank you very much. Again, thank you very much for watching, and take care.